name is Saif Morrison, and this is This Week in Car Audio. Tune in. This Week in Car Audio. Tune in. We'll be talking about bass, talking about chips, talking about rings. You ain't got them, zip your lip. You got a problem you haven't found, check your grounds. The show about to start. Tune in. This Week in Car Audio. Yeah. Tune in. This Week in Car Audio.
Welcome to This Week in Car Audio with your host, the Judge, Doug Stockton, and Mr. Jeffrey Fernandez. I'm discombobulated because they haven't fixed this yet. So let me go here, and I'm gonna share to a group. Hey Jeffrey, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just another day here in Texas. And in anticipation of our show going on this Saturday, I was kind of looking at the back of where we're gonna have it at, and just kind of surveying, how it's gonna go down with 4 orgs and stuff like that. Just the usual.
So anything expanding on that thing, and then I'll talk about mine. I see Tiffany on here. I'm just trying to. Why am I not seeing my live?
Yeah, I don't see it.
Oh, there we go. Well, no, because it's on my personal one. I see it on YouTube now.
That's right. Okay.
But on Facebook, it's on my personal. So I shared it to Sonic FX, I think. Let's see here. Bam. Pop out chat. Now I can see chat on YouTube. That's better. Now, let me go here, and then, bam. Oh, let me go here.
There we go.
Come on. Get out here. There we go. I got it going on now. So mute. All right. Anyway, I did a show this weekend at Jay's Alarms. And that was pretty fun. We had a guy show up, and I haven't seen him in a minute. He was doing Cyclone Wall. And, prior to Autorama, the record was 211.1, and this guy came out to a show and he was doing 212. So so that was pretty awesome.
Wait, was he louder than
No, he was 217 point something.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, yeah, so we had that. That was really cool. I started my new job today.
Doug?
Yes, sir.
What is 211 dB?
Oh, okay. So since you are not familiar with all this stuff, so in Cyclone is a class, and the way it works is you get your SPL score. Actually, Jeffrey, want to tell them while I go through this so I don't lose my place in what I'm doing?
Sure. Essentially, Cyclone is broken up into 2 parts. So it's SPL and frequency. So the lower the frequency you play, the more bonus points you get, and you add that bonus point onto your SPL, and then it yields a composite score, which would be 210. So the lowest frequency that you can go to get the maximum bonus points is 20 hertz. That'll give you 60 bonus points. So 20 hertz.
If you use my passive radiator, I'll rip everybody apart.
What? Oh, okay, there's some secrets.
I tune them at 17 hertz. Some guys are doing it. That's why they're coming to us. I'll be damned.
Wow, I bet you your email is gonna blow up then, because a lot of these guys
already.
already.
No. Now I know what happens. Okay, we have sold in the last 6 months more than numbers of passive radiator on large size to car audio, more than we've sold in the last 10 years times 4.
Really?
And we don't know, we didn't know why, because I knew car audio was about SPL, and most of the kids out there want 50, 60 hertz. That doesn't work good with passive radiator. That we recommend to be tuned below 20, because what happens is below 20, the passive radiator stops the voice coil from having over excursion, and it increases the impedance of the system. So the system and impedance below 20 hertz roughly goes up to like 25 ohm. You know what I mean? So
that's a lot of ohmage.
So no longer you're pulling current out of the amp.
Mm-hmm.
So when the impedance shoots up in the like 15 hertz and so on, that increases the impedance. It controls the woofer movement from over excursion and reduces the current out of the amp. So basically the impedance curve of your system, which has two peaks. One peak is for the active, and there's a dip, and then another peak. The dip, minimum impedance, that's the passive tuning. But what you like to look at below passive tuning, there's a peak impedance that if you invert it, that kills the current draw out of the amp. The amp won't work as much. And it's limit the woofer from over excursion. So now what you're going to get, massive amount of bass below the active, at about the passive, depends where you tuned it, with less current out of the amp.
I wonder if with the impedance rise, though, if that's going to affect, it's going to affect SPL, since it's composed of SPL and...
You're very, very sharp. That's exactly what happens. You want that rise to go below your interest of frequency. That's your force order roll-off. You want that rise to suddenly kill those frequencies because you can't hear or feel. They're below 20, and you don't need them really. They're going to rob you from SPL. They're just not going to do anything for you.
Okay.
So that's when, technically speaking, yeah.
Okay, so just so you know, so the record prior to 2 weekends ago was 211.1, which the guy did 151.1 dBs at 20 hertz. The guy at Autorama turned off his...
What was he using? What was he using?
I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about, but I don't pay attention to that stuff. Oh, Mike Nauta finally popping in. Dude, that's a good old boy from back in the days. What's going on, Mike? Unless it's Annie, his wife. Anyway, I don't pay attention to people's equipment because that way I can never be accused of telling somebody another person's secrets, right?
I'm exiting this business. I don't give a shit. I'll tell you
No, so I personally don't ever watch anybody's stuff. So anyway, so the guy did a 157.4. Justin Stolman popping in. So I did a 157.4, the guy did a 157.4. Turned it off with about 8 seconds left. And so it's a 60-second average. So he dropped from a 160 down to a 157.4 in just a couple of seconds. Because it is. So, it samples 20 times a second, right? So every second that you aren't playing, that's 20 zeros. Right?
So what are they using for microphones on this stuff?
Are they this is the
audio
new
control?
No. This is the new TermLab Sensor X. It's their newest version. So it's called the Sensor X.
Okay.
It reads everything from 20 to 20,000 hertz.
Okay, so basically he was using Josephson years ago from Germany.
Well, have you looked at the TermLabs? The sensors are...
We used to sell Term product from Wayne.
Yeah.
Worldwide. As a...
Okay.
Oh, he's in...
I think he got
robotics
frozen. Anyway, real quick, while he's getting unfrozen, I want to say thank you to our sponsors today. We've got Voodoo Customs, Badass Sounds by Steve, E-Box, and once again, one of our older guys popped back up in there, Justin Stolman with Stolman Transport. It should be on there. I haven't seen it pop up yet, but it is in the file, so it should pop in there. So that's Stolman Transport, and I don't see it popping up there. I'll fix it and make sure it works next week. But anyway, so Stolman Transport, he is one of the guys, once again, used to sponsor the show. Now he's back to sponsoring the show again. So thank you, Joseph. Or thank you, Justin. Yeah, he was driving by today, and so he called me and says, hey, I haven't been sponsoring, and I'd like to sponsor again. Oh, Tristan, sorry he's late. Forgot to log in. Team Send It Transport.
What is it? That's cool.
Yeah, but he was listening from Tiffany's Inn. All right. So like I was saying, so what happened was the guy was at a 160 at 20 hertz, and he shut it off, and 8 seconds left, and ended up at 157.4, I believe. And so he's 157.4 at 20 hertz for, you got your 60 plus your 157. That's 217.4 is the current record for demo wall class.
Now, was it his choice to stop playing the music, or did something blow? Or...
It didn't blow.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it wasn't gonna blow.
Okay, because I was thinking he just, ride it out the whole full minute, but then I don't know why I thought it shut off.
Jeffrey, come on. You used to be a competitor. Sometimes you don't show the whole thing, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So, but no, the passive radiator stuff, I really, really looked into it back when I was competing in the 90s. It's a really cool concept. I mean, it gives you cone area. And then you don't have the restriction of the motor. So what I found personally, Joel popping in. What's going on, Joel? What's popping? What I found when I did it is, once again, like Joseph said, I was trying to tune around 55 hertz, to peak SPL, and it actually became it counteracted my wave and actually reduced my SPL because I was playing at a frequency that it really didn't like, and so I tried tuning it with weights and all that, and
so here's what I've.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to know if we can real quickly explain what a passive radiator is for people that are just kind of listening in. So essentially it's almost, I guess, it's like speaker, but without the basket and the motor, right? Pretty much.
Right.
That's one way to look at it. So I believe the ones Joseph have is like two flat cones sandwiched together with a piece of insulation or bridging in between them.
Oh, okay.
Space.
Yeah. So you have some kind of space. Yeah.
So there's still a surround on
both sides.
Both sides. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so let me explain.
Okay.
A typical passive radiator, not ours, that is not patented. Could be just a flat diaphragm with one surround. The problem with those, they would rock during high excursion. When they rock, make huffing and puffing and distortion. We don't use those. The step improvement from that would be a speaker basket, like Doug was saying, surround, cone, and spider. Those are fairly good, and they move like a regular passive radiator. The problem with them is the spider is a rigid material, and it tend to break at the neck where the coil is usually. I've tried to put on cardboard tubes to hold them together. When you start tuning with heavy mass at 20, 25 hertz, 17 hertz, that shit breaks no matter what. So one of these days, I was home back in the 90s, and the two diaphragms were sitting on my bed, one offset from the other, and they were inverted. I said, holy shit, eureka. Glue those son of a bitch together, and here have it. I wrote the patent right away.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't like I was smart. It was two diaphragms sitting on my bed. I said, what if I connect those? And I went to the lab, and I did it. Boy, I increased the distance to have less rocking. And from there, I wrote several other patent, multi-roll, Some of them have 3-roll. I do those for the military 6-inch excursion. So here's the thing. Physically speaking, using polynomial equation solution, a ported box and a passive radiator are almost physically, I'm talking polynomial, are the same. The difference is port does have wind noise. If you not under 2% of the speed of sound out of the port, you're gonna have that. So that's you start playing tricks by making tapered tubes and stuff like that. Another problem with ports, you can't tune at 20 hertz without increasing your box volume. Now, the passive radiator, you just add weight to the passive radiator to shift the resonance, and then you have what you want without increasing the volume. However, a guy named Mike Bidney, you guys know him, right? Shocker Audio.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Shocker
has a special trick, and once I finish saying it to your guys, they're gonna be happy as heck. Shocker, he tries to aim his port air outlet right where the mic is, so it literally blows into it like. So your meter sometimes reads that as SPL when it isn't even there.
So
when you blow part,
so with the old stick mics, you're 100% accurate. With the new sensors we use are not newer. The sensors we use, they're a digital thing, and they filter out a lot of that.
But they still have to. They measure pressure.
They do. So they're measuring Don Hebig finally in the chat over there. So what they do is they are measuring. They're taking multiple measurements and then going through an algorithm to come up with what the pressure is. And by doing that, he's made them. It's been more consistent that way.
Let me give you flow cross-section velocity, which dictate the SPL. If you have a hose that's round and you're shooting water through it, the speed of the water at the circle out in the inside circle, the bigger circle of the hose, the speed of the water technically is 0. The maximum speed of the water is in the middle of the hose, and the shape is like a convex, if you will. Okay? So now, water and air are the same. One of them is compressible, one is not. So basically, when you have round port, the highest speed of air is in the middle with compressibility and so on. Now, bear in mind, we're ignoring reflection surfaces and other type of issues.
Yeah.
So the bottom line, once you do this, the rectangular port, it has, let's say, 2-inch wide or 3 by 6-inch or 10-inch long. In the middle center line is the highest speed because that's the furthest from the dead speed and dead center with it. So if a guy is clever and aim that velocity axis using laser or other means to know where you put your mic, you will maybe have a compensation filter, a foam material or anything like that, but you're still gonna read higher SPL due to the air traveling at higher speed in that section. So you're not using the uniform reading, the average reading. You're still reading the peak, but you're filtering quite a bit of it. Now, maybe your guys can call me. I'll teach them how to win. you can
seminars.
You can talk to your boy in Sacramento when he had one woofer or two. I forgot. He broke the world record. What's his name? The crazy guy.
Greg?
Yeah, Greg Purchell.
Purchell?
Yeah. Justin Stolman asked real quick. So what? So would that 60 at 20 hertz been a record? Yes, the 57.4 at 20 hertz was the record. So yes, 60 would have beat 57.4, so it would have been louder. But he still has the record at the 57.4 at 20 hertz. So.
Doug, what state is that in?
That show was in California at Sacramento Autorama, not last weekend, but the weekend before.
I'm amazed. I thought Texas beat us all the time.
No, Texas. Jeffrey's in Texas, and they're not loud over in Texas. So
I think maybe you might be encompassing us with the Midwest. And, the Midwest guys are pretty loud, I have to say.
Yeah. Well, he does have DD Tank out there, and DD
Yeah.
Tank's pretty dang loud.
Oh yeah.
And then he had what? Do you have 3 champions 2 years ago or last year, whatever, come out of your Texas area?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3 world champions came out there. And right here, Justin says Texas doesn't beat anyone. Jeffrey has a shirt to prove it. And David Hunt, he's out of Texas. He says he has a world record now. He does. He has the current record for 1K, 1,000 watt class. So, Joseph, I know you aren't here. So last year we did Texas versus California versus Tennessee. And whoever had the least amount of winners in that show, we did it. It's an online event against each other. Whoever had the least amount of wins, the winning team made him a shirt for the losing team. So Jeffrey was the losing team, and so Tennessee made him a shirt that he had to wear for World Finals. So
I'll tell you, I'm happy to hear about your method of making point at lower frequency than previous rules at 50 hertz versus now. I think now makes more sense because the old one was tricks basically.
Let's see here. So Don Hebig says air in the port has friction loss on rough surfaces within the port, so it's ideal to create an air mass with less loss with smooth ports and volumes that are larger in mass while keeping the same tuning requirements. I don't think he's wrong. Don's a smart dude.
No, obviously it's accurate. The walls, that's why the walls have zero velocity.
Yep.
The wall. Okay, so this no different than look no further than the hypersonic rockets and hypersonic planes that our government is trying to have leadership in. When you look at them and you look at their skin friction and the way they paint them and how they want them to be smooth, how they shape them so that the particle do not issue friction that causes massive temperature increase. I mean, and then they will make them so slippery as far as paint to do that. Clearly, that's the same with air, even though it's low speed and less incompressible fluid, such as air.
What's his name? Tristan out of Barbados says he might have to give you a call one of these days and get some lessons from you.
Lesson doesn't make money. I don't know how you make
Seminars.
Let's see. Don says when in a situation where velocity cannot be minimized to a point where losses are controlled, a passive is required or different configuration of enclosure. So, yeah, he's talking about the uses of the passive. I think Don did a whole bunch of testing of passive radiators. Do you remember Inhuman Audio out of Canada, out of Saskatchewan? They were back in 99, 2000-ish. Very short-lived, but Don started manufacturing his own subwoofers and doing a lot of testing, and he was helping develop the current way that a lot of the cars build their system nowadays. He says 98 to 2003 is when he did the Inhuman Audio company. But yeah, so that's what he did. Like I said, I do know. I think that may even been how I started talking to Don. Was I was talking passive radiators and horns, and then rolled into like ported horns. So, it was a port with a horn flare on it to try and dual tune a box. So, that's actually how I met Don back in the day. So, yeah. Did you look up at any of that stuff about that Steve Deckert and his little horns and all that stuff? Oh, I don't know if Joseph can hear us while he's walking around. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah. So the passive radiator thing, like I said, when I was playing with it, I wasn't playing low enough frequencies to have an advantage because he did, like he said, the idea was you can use the passive radiator as a port and in place of a port, and when you do that, you don't need to reduce the volume because you don't have the port sucking up a bunch of volume in a box. And that's the part that intrigued me about the passive radiator back in the days. Justin says, just epoxy the whole inside of the box. It will level out and make a smooth area. That's not 100% correct because if you do that, fiberglass is actually really rough. Jeffrey will tell you, he spent a day or two sanding in there. Don Habig says he helps a lot of people. They can speak. Let's see. They can speak up if they wish. But yes, Don does help. Loud cheats. Plus won't leak on the seams. That is true. A leaky box is not a great box.
Yeah, I think that's what he means by just pouring resin in there and then just kind of spreading it out even.
Yeah, Don says he's constantly learning though, nonstop. So Joseph, what's your biggest amp right now?
Oh, we have. I don't like the biggest amp because I don't think people have enough battery. We have a 8,000 watt and can be bridged to another 8.
Okay.
I cannot run it in the lab. I have a military grade power supply that dishes out 400 amperes at any volt I want. I check the volt. I run 0 gauge. I have 30 parallel Millery capacitors, American made, and I can't run it more than less than 2 ohm, 4 ohm or 2 ohm. I don't think it goes 800 ampere. So when a guy asks me the same question you ask, I say take the Powerhouse 3500 because you can bridge another one. See the biggest thing people don't understand. Their ground elevate like the hills nearby. Look at that hills. The grounds, and when you put load across negative and positive, negative should be 0. That distance between the ground and the positive narrows down during surges of current. That distance is narrowing down. It's exactly like you have a house and lightning hit the ground rod, it goes up.
Yep.
It can't ground it to 0 ohm, it goes up. It's no different when you hit something like that with the way you guys are doing the crazy shit. But I'd like to point out something for your listener.
Okay. Yes, sir.
A problem, a port has been terrible way to reinforce sound in a lower resonance. Now, the idea of reinforcing sound 1 octave below the active to create control for the cone is good. The idea to do it without the phase shift making audible distortion, whether it's a port or passive, that phase shift creates major group delay challenge. Okay, so also the air in the port at the inlet and in the outlet, there is a delta P change in pressure. That's why it moves. But there are turbulent flow no matter what bell shape you use on the input and the output. There is a turbulent flow that is losses. Its port is massive losses. Now, finally, the most important thing. Ideal gas law formula, it's equal pressure times volume is doing constant nRT. When you suck the air into the box, it's different spring constant resistance than when you push air out of the box. So what does that mean? A guy like Doug designs a woofer, very nice, puts it on the computer. He centered the voice coil exactly where he wants it with a top plate. Based on that, he has push-pull configuration optimized. Now some guy comes and put a port, but the port favors maybe more resistance during push, less resistance during suction. It offset the centering position of the coil relative to top plate. Now you have harmonic problem. And that's what I hate about port. When you use my passive radiator, it has two opposing surround. If I use one opposing surround, it will have offset. Kx, the spring constant in versus Kx out are different. Not if you use mine, because they're two opposing, they cancel each other. So this is very important thing in our patent on the passive radio. We're the only symmetrical K out, K in. That's important for me. I don't know, in the car audio, maybe that's not important. Yeah. Finally, I'd like to quiz your listener.
Okay.
If I have 150 dB at 50 hertz, okay, and I want to maintain 150 dB at 25 hertz, I'm ignoring the room gain. Room gain is car size, creative lift. Ignore that. Theoretically speaking, I want 150 at 50 to maintain down to 25. How much air movement do I need at 25 versus 50? It's a ratio. What do you think it is?
So I don't remember what that ratio is. Don, if you chime in there. So the way I remember it, to go down, I think it was 5 hertz and maintain the same. I think you had to triple the motor force to maintain it.
You're close enough.
It's been a long while since I've done it.
You want me to explain?
Hold on, wait. Don says ports change phase with the woofer just as a passive radiator does. It just allows us much smaller volume and still be able to tune low without all the vent velocity. That's very similar to what you said before. But I will tell you what you're talking about with the port and whatnot. This is my belief that's why. So in my car that I built way back in the days, the top left woofer would always blow, and I believed because it had a different port pressure from the port, and so this top left woofer was more free air than the one that was closer to the port because you didn't have that back pressure from the port with it changing. And I would blow that top left subwoofer almost every run. David Hunt says, I'm completely lost.
Enclosure?
Was that a what?
Common enclosure, common box.
Yes, common box that you can walk. Yeah, you can walk right into that damn box.
All right.
So,
guys, I'm going to name people and brand. Is that okay?
All right.
Not in disrespectful.
Okay.
Did we do a disclaimer?
Okay, years ago was Car Audio.
Go ahead.
Okay. Car Audio and Electronic had a guy, he's the editor-in-chief. He was my best friend, Bill Burton. He passed since. Bill and I were a very good friend, but Bill will always go between me and he goes to JL and talk to Manville Smith. Now, I'm professor of electronic. I'm not aware of what degree he has. But he will get a question from him. He was against ported box. He was sealed box, and they pushed the 3 subwoofer in a sealed box. Remember those days?
Yeah.
3 10-inch, 3 12-inch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of these days, I got a call from from Bill Burton, and he asked me a question. He said, I have a person with box with 3 woofer, and the middle woofer keeps popping, and they want to know why. Same story you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who he was talking about. I asked, is the common enclosure? Because, guys, speaker is what we call reactive motor. it reacts to the loading. If you load it in the car, it acts and changes its resonance. If you load it in the corner, equally, if you load it in a box and you have 3 woofer in common enclosure, here's what you have. You have 2 woofer on the side loaded by the wooden box, and the one in the middle loaded by the other woofer has more air. That means if you sweep that box, it has not, even though if it's parallel or whatever ways you use it, you will see 2 peak impedances. A peak impedance for the 2 woofer on the side and a peak impedance for the woofer in the middle. As soon as you see peak impedances, you're going to have phase shift between those impedances. That makes the woofer in the middle act like a passive radiator for the 2 guys at a different frequency. Once it happens like that, then those 2 woofer are going to push it to move at higher excursion. And that can pop the spider off or the woofer because they're not going to move together. They're going to move in and out of phase with each other. And that may be what Doug is speaking about with that woofer, because he has a port in addition to that. So if one woofer is closer to the port, considering that woofer has a reactive impedance to the environment, so those woofers are going to act differently, and therefore one of them could act at a certain frequency to see that the port in that woofer is an actual tune-in frequency.
Yeah. So, yes. Because that's when you're, let's see what Don says here. Don says, impedance sweep tells all, but 2 peaks is a ported enclosure. See my page for examples. He's, like I said, Don's a smart dude. He engineers and does that stuff up in Canada, and he just kind of, helps people out. And, he used to try and do it.
Let me have a bet with Don. Let me have a bet with Don. If he build a box, 3 woofers,
yep.
3 woofers that's unevenly loaded, connect them parallel or series as he want, and sweep it. There'll be 2 peak impedance even though it's sealed. So, the impedance peak could be closer or further. The one of them will have different impedance than the other 2.
So so I don't think you're wrong. I haven't tested it, but I will tell you, I have before used a dual 4 ohm with 2 dual 2 ohms, and like you said, a 3 woofer enclosure, and I had the 4 ohm in the middle and the 2 ohms on the sides, the dual 2s and the dual 4.
You can see it. You can see it. As you change the frequency, you see the phase shift between them. You clearly see it.
And I will tell you, even though I had the different ohm loads on the same amplifier, they seem to work in phase really well, even with different ohm loads.
If you go down to low frequency, it depends on their QTS.
Okay.
As soon as you start shifting, there comes a frequency. You can use laser. I use all kind of equipment. I don't even have to measure it. I'll look at the laser.
Right.
There comes a frequency which the 2 outside woofer, if they're all manufactured within precision, the 2 outside woofer are gonna have the same exact resonance, while the inner one will act different. You'll see it by excursion. They'll shift between them. You'll see the shift in phase. It's science. It is science.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, you can't have a mechanical force putting a different force and maintain the same force as what you put into it, right? Because you still have this. You have the amplifier force and the mechanical force, right?
Well, it starts from symmetry. Okay, watch this. I am woofer in the middle. I'm looking at top box, right? On my left side, I see woofer. On the right side, I see woofer. I'm a left woofer now. What I see the middle woofer on the right and the wall of the box on the other side. So naturally, right now, it's a different loading. However, you think it's not big. As soon as you start sweeping from 20 hertz on up, you start seeing the motion. There comes a frequency where you see that kind of motion. The middle woofer and the outside are doing this. And so and that's included in a sealed box.
Yeah, so
not in a port. If you go, even in a port, it's even worse.
Right. So Don said right here. He goes, you can simulate that same test by running an impedance sweep with the woofer on a counter, and then do the same woofer hanging in the open air. The resistance of the back counter is going to show you that it's going to run a completely different impedance curve. Which
clearly, yeah, loading. He's right. He's right. It's reactive.
Yep.
What I'm saying I mean, look, without saying the brands, they were making common box and they had a problem, and that was what I did for them. I mean, it was a freebie.
Okay.
That's why you isolate the box.
Yes, and that's a very good learning tool for people building boxes. If you can isolate, do it. Andrew McCain, I don't know if you know him, McCain Audio out of New Mexico. He wants to know how has earthquake changed in the last 5 years?
I got old.
You got old.
I got memory issues. I'm more stupid to stay in it, but I love it, so I'm in it. I mean, I just spend more money on equipment, training engineers. I'm 67. When do you retire? I have no clue. But one of the things is I wish it was the 90s again, in the 80s. It was easy to make money in 2000. Right now, you guys face it. You sell wheel, you sell tire, you sell stereos, and that's how it is. In the old days, you didn't need to do that crap. You could set the people outside in line. We said about I'm going back to Cali back in the old days.
That's right.
And that song was, I mean, high school kids would just walk in and they want 2 subs and an amp. They didn't care what it is daddy's paying. Good old days. That's what it changed, man. Now you're gonna go to sound off, some crazy guys, and there's only few out there. Yeah, that changed. As far as science, how did it change? I believe in my heart that home audio benefited a lot from the car audio crowd, like Doug, who played with shit, full R&D for free, like that guy in Canada. He's doing all that work. You look at the home audio guys, they're a bunch of idiots. I know them. I sell to them. These guys, I mean, you guys, the car is one of the worst environment for winding, engine winding, alternator noise. You guys solve all that shit. The home audio only got 60 hertz out of the panel. That could be a problem, or some other minor shit. Anybody that from you guys in the car audio, if you go to home audio, you're running circle around these guys. Seriously, you guys are far. I know most. I do technical training for them. I know what they don't know. And when I see Smart One, I ask him, where'd you come from? What was your background? He goes, car audio. Every one of them. So that's how it changed. And as far as woofer constructions, back in the days, I'm talking like, what was it? The biggest company in the home audio. What was it? And maybe you got Bose with a diaphragm. If you sneeze on it, it moves. You got like Velodyne making similar stuff. It wasn't until Bob Carver knocked off the woofer from us, Soundstream, Big Excursion, 2-inch peak to peak, and a couple of other companies that made long excursion. He copied the car sub, the Solo Barrick, and took it to home, small compact box, and he patented it. Actually, he lost the patent then.
Okay.
And he made high pressure box in the home, and it kicked butt. Where did he get the idea? Car audio.
Yeah.
When the lawyers in Seattle, Washington, during the lawsuit against his patent, it was conducted. He sued company in Canada called, what was it called? API or something. API, I think API, Audio Product International. He sued them, and they went first to the lawsuit. He originally sued Velodyne, but Velodyne fired the lawyer, became second. They don't want to spend $2 million lawsuit. So the Canadian were very honorable. They came to me. I prepared the deposition for Jessica Lang, the lawyer that represented the our industry against Bob, because Bob took basically a woofer like Solo Barrick, like what is that called? I mean, Soundstream, or like ours, compact, quarter, half a foot, and he basically patented. So what in the deposition, I asked Jessica, him, because what happened, in order to get the patent, he sets himself as an expert in the field. Under rule number 9, if you set yourself as expert, you cannot say, I don't know. So Jessica asked him the question, have you heard of Kicker company, car audio? He says yes. If he says no, he's screwed. Have you heard of SoundStream? And he said yes. Are you familiar with Solo Beric? Remember Solo Beric box?
Right.
Half a foot or whatever.
Half a cube, yeah.
And have you heard of Earthquake Sound? Do you know like Magma speaker? And what he did, he couldn't say no. He basically says yes. And she said, how big are their boxes? He's the expert. He's supposed to know. He avoided that. They took lunch break, came back. I had prepared her. She cornered him. Once the box was discovered to be, he was saying 10-inch woofer were put in 16 cubic feet box. That's what he was saying. And it was, but not in the car side.
No.
Yeah.
So Don says the reason you're still in it is because you can never leave something you truly love. People who do this for bragging, status, or whatever don't last very long. He is correct.
He's a good man.
Look,
I appreciate knowing there are guys like you. That's why I come on your platform, dog. You're a cool guy and everything, but I like to see this going on. You guys get the benefit. I have no interest to sell you, or I told you already I'd like to get out. I'm holding on. Maybe my kids will come back. I'm really hoping honestly, today I was training this guy, and he's pretty good. I don't know if I'm doing him a favor or not.
Getting them into car audio, huh? Or well, you do more than just car audio with your shop nowadays.
We do home car, yeah, but
yeah.
But you know what? I mean, if you work for NVIDIA today, chances you'll get 5,000 shares free. Multiply by 1,000, that's $500,000.
Oof.
Or what? 2.5 million, depends on how much.
Right.
Yeah, free, guys. Silicon Valley has built $6 trillion in the last 2 years in stock values. These are the guy buying the houses. You won't see car audio guy or home audio guy buying these mansions. In fact, ask Doug. He's moving away, right? Doug, you're moving out of the area.
That's because you're buying my house, I heard.
I would. I love that lake. You killed me with that.
Tristan from Barbados says, Doug and Jeffrey, we need to get you guys and Joseph to Barbados. Let's drink some rum and talk car audio.
Oh, sounds like a plan.
Damn.
But don't go during the summer.
I was watching a movie.
That's all I'm going to say.
When would you go? Spring?
So they have late or fall. Mid to late fall is an awesome time to go. So the weather is good. Let's see. Oh, apparently, Andrew, I will call you after the show and I'll let you know what's going on. He just texted me. What do you mean you're moving?
Oh.
So he hasn't been paying attention to the shows and stuff. Yep. Let's see here. Hey, Go ahead, sir.
Doug.
Yeah.
So basically, if you want to hold the SPL, give or take some air compressibility losses, what frequency it is, and the humidity. Typically, you need 4 times more excursion to hold it 1 octave below. Right. And if you have a box and you shrunk it by half to hold it at its value of SPL, you need 10 times the power. Just so you guys know. So if you took a box 2 cubic feet, shrunk it to 1, and you want to hold the SPL at same level, you need 10 times the power.
So where that came from, and the reason I even know kind of how this all comes about is back when I was designing and building subwoofers, we were trying to make as much excursion as we can for that exact reason. And that's a lot of reason why SPL back in the, late 90s to the early 2000s, we were limited in power, and the drivers were like 12 millimeters one way, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, right. Yeah. And so we were, we were doing a lot of, we were trying like spring surrounds and stuff to try and get that excursion, to extend. And we were trying some really cool stuff. It just didn't work out. But with the power that we have nowadays, it might not be a bad idea to look back at some of them old notes that you might have been doing back in the day, because even like the car audio stuff that we're doing now, like the fourth orders and stuff like that, that stuff people came up with in the 1940s and 1930s, and they were like going, this would be awesome if we could do this, but they could only produce amps that were doing 20 watts, 12 watts,
50 watt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it was all conceptual, and they couldn't actually test it and do anything with it. And that's what I did when I started building boxes. I was looking back at papers from the 40s and stuff going, oh, wait, what if I did this? Like this guy said, it failed then, but he only had 50 watts. I now have 1,500 watts. And you're like, oh, crap. Stuff's actually happening like these guys imagined it could,
I'm going to ask you guys a
Uh-huh.
question. 1978. What was the largest car amp power, and who made it?
I don't know. Harrison Lab, probably, because they've been around a long time. But in the 70s,
I'll tell you.
I think the big brand was Radio Shack.
The biggest amp I could
Uh-huh.
buy, because I was in the business, I would take the 6x9 mids and highs and put them in my Datsun Nissan 280Z in the roof in the front.
Okay.
And I put so that it has a imaging.
Uh-huh.
I could only find the largest amp, Clarion, 50 watt.
Okay.
Is Clarion still in business?
They got bought out. A big conglomerate or whatever. That it's like, what's the other one that starts with a P? Not Pile. Pyramid. The Pyramid brand subwoofers. Clarion.
Wow.
There's a whole bunch of them, and it's a one company that owns a whole bunch of them now. Don says he was there in the hotel lobby at finals when Andrew McCain said, "I'm gonna build a van and show these kids what an old school guy can do." Now we've seen what happened. Just so you know, he has 33 world championships. Andrew McCain does. So,
Wow.
so he kind of showed everybody what he could do.
Mm, yes.
What did he? I missed something here. I'm trying to get back to. Let's see. What did he say about this? Oh wait, it was on my. He texted it to me. What did he say? He said retail sales of car audio are a lot about marketing and much less about competition nowadays. And he's not wrong.
Yeah.
But the competition guys, they help drive R&D to make better, more reliable equipment. Just like NASCAR does, right?
Right.
Let's see. It's harder to get shipping containers.
And the factories
and
take over.
Yeah, and then the factories take over, right? Let's see here. Two of the best name brands in car audio are Powerbase and Earthquake. That's from Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, he said there was 300 watt-ish from Motorola, but it wasn't that much power. That's what Don Hebig says. He would
Back
know.
in the 70s, late
Yeah.
70s, huh?
Yeah.
Motorola.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 70s, we did not have a Class D. Most of the stuff in the 70s was either, there was T.I.P. 35 and 36 being manufactured. That transistor is old. But not too many people used it. It was strictly home audio amplifiers.
Mm-hmm.
And there was monolithic circuit that worked in a 12 volt, because these guys didn't know power supply. Switching power supply were too complex. You understand?
Uh-huh.
And semiconductor wasn't able to handle. So what they had in the 12 volt, they had a transformer type power supply, like a rectangular transformer. They didn't have toroidal and high frequency to wind it and run 494 and 594 CN chips. They didn't have that. I remember, I'll tell you,